Welcome to the What If podcast. We're sharing an ever-growing collection of stories from the Belmont entrepreneur community to inspire you to start and keep going. I'm your host, Elizabeth Gortmaker. Here we go. Today's guests are Gabe and Keely Scott, founders of LadyBird Taco in Nashville, Tennessee. Keely studied mass communications here at Belmont and graduated in 2004. Since then, she's had a very entrepreneurial career working for Compassion International. In 2020, they opened LadyBird Taco and have had an incredible journey of ups and downs ever since. In today's episode, we'll talk about the opening of the restaurant, what it's like to be the spouse of an entrepreneur, and how their faith has given them strength to persevere. And now, here's Keely and Gabe Scott. Keely and Gabe, welcome.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
I have so much I want to talk about with you two. I feel like we could probably do multiple episodes with just each of you individually. But to kick us off, I'll just briefly intro, Gabe Scott is the founder of LadyBird Taco here in Nashville. And we want to talk a lot about that because everyone loves those tacos. But Keely Scott is a Belmont alum, and she has been going through this whole journey with Gabe as his faithful wife. You also have a very long entrepreneurial career, and so I want to touch on that as well. But for today's episode, the angle is a little bit more about what is it like to have an entrepreneur in your life, or specifically to be married to an entrepreneur, because it's crazy and it is stressful and thrilling and rewarding and certainly challenging. So today's episode will focus a little bit more about what does that look like to walk alongside or to live with or to live every day with an entrepreneur. But before we get into that, how about each of you just give us a little background about what you were up to, what you were doing before 2020?
Ooh.
Yeah.
You want to go first or you want me to go?
No, I'm glad to go first, but for better or for worse, I can't help but point out when you sort of intro this, you said you want a taco about that.
Oh, gosh.
You want a taco about that. So, thank you. I
wish I could pull out a taco right now.
I like wordplay. So, yeah, so I spent the last, pretty much 2 decades in the music world, both out touring, playing for other artists, and then in the last decade started getting in more to producing other people's records, playing on people's records. And then something I really enjoyed doing was writing music for TV and film, commercials, things like that. You get this short little description of what they're looking for, and you basically work for free, meaning if you don't get picked, you wasted your time. But it was really fun for me. So I spent a good bit of time doing that as well, working for free. And then once in a while, it pays off in more ways than one to say, oh, your music's going to get used on this commercial or whatever it might be. So
tell everybody, what instrument do you play?
Yeah, this is one of my favorite questions because I've always been a yes man. So it's, do you play this instrument? And I don't do it anymore, but I used to just say yes, which meant I was lying. And then I would run out as fast as I could with the not much money I had when I was younger and bought the cheapest version of that I could, learn to play it well enough to do whatever they needed me to do, and then spend my spare time learning how to really play it. So, but I started on piano, guitar. Hammered dulcimer is one that has gotten a lot of attention through the years because it's just a unique instrument. You play it with 2 hammers. You hit strings with hammers, and it's
beautiful.
Totally, you play like 8 or 9 instruments.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know. Hammer dulcimer was the answer I was looking for.
I'll pull that one out.
It's so good. I feel like your second or your third career, you could just play that at weddings.
Yes, totally.
Love that.
Except the only time he ever gets stage fright is at a wedding. And the only time he ever messes up on stage is at a wedding. Isn't that interesting? It might not be a very long-lasting career.
Yeah, weddings are,
on second thought.
A lot
of attention.
Oh, it's good.
So Keely, you came to Nashville for Belmont.
Yeah,
right?
for Belmont. Yep. So graduated in 04 with a major in mass communications and a minor in photography. And met Gabe a little bit before that in Nashville. And then we got married in 04 as well. So I'm from Texas, which is part of our LadyBird story. I'm still an obnoxious Texan that would say, even 20 plus years later, that I am from the great state of Texas and all that too. But married and stayed. And during that time, shortly after, Gabe was on the road traveling, and Compassion International was a part of a lot of the tours that he was on. So I had a lot of friends there, and we had gone to Africa. I think it was like 2 months after we got married. And I'd obviously minored in photography. So I had my camera, took photos, and never in my wildest dreams would I have thought that I would end up doing photography for Compassion for about 10 to 11 years. So it was pretty funny that was a minor and I loved it, but never thought it was a career. So quickly had to figure out how to make it a career. But I was so grateful. It was amazing. So I traveled with Compassion. There were about two of us, a third at times, doing photography, mainly on artist trips and marketing trips. And Compassion, for those that don't know, we're a nonprofit that does holistic child development in the developing world. So it was just the biggest gift. I think back, and even though we were like ships in a night most of the time, touring and international travel, I look back and I'm just so grateful for those years. And it really laid the foundation to what I do now, which becoming a part of the Compassion family, I just loved it. And always loved the artist side of it, getting to help artists use their stage for good. So often nights can be really hard. And so to get to celebrate how many kids were sponsored was just part of a story that I loved getting to witness. And so now I've been full-time at Compassion for, this is my 10th year. I had to think about that. And I lead the artist team here in Nashville. So so I'm so grateful. And through that, I've gotten to do tons of random other projects, all creatively geared at people that love what we get to do and speak for us. So, yeah.
Yes. How much is photography still a part of your life?
Now that I have this iPhone, and we have a 5-year-old who moves like really fast. So I definitely am picky on how I take a photo. I would say I applied the framing idea of how I frame a photo pretty well with how an iPhone is. And I'm really sad to say I don't pick up my camera as much as I should.
But she just talked to me this morning or yesterday about an app that gets on your phone and removes.
Because I take a lot of photos. So I did just find some app that's like supposedly goes through and finds your duplicate photo. I'll report back because I've got way too many photos. But I did do LadyBird's, another photographer here in town, Caitlin, who we love. She did some, and then we can talk about it. But it was crazy times, all hands on deck. So I did do LadyBird's photography for the first almost year, I guess. Yeah. So I did do that. But yeah.
Yep. See, Gabe, when you know someone, you married well.
It works out. Yeah.
Yeah.
It helps.
It's good.
Okay, so there's a lot to say about LadyBird. When did the idea of this come about? And for those who don't know, when did LadyBird launch? What is it?
Yeah.
So the story. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's some jokes built into this as well. But
let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about it. I think between touring for years, playing music, all over, but that also includes Texas, Austin, and then marrying somebody from Texas. I've spent a good bit of time there. And when I was there was this thing that I would get called a breakfast taco. And I grew up in Michigan. Like that's not a phrase in Michigan.
Like he never had guacamole until he was in your 20s, right? You didn't even know what that was.
Yeah.
Sorry to call you out.
Yeah, thanks.
He believes in it now.
Sad to
it's
me.
Really sad. It makes no sense.
But
20 years of your life wasted.
I know.
Pretty much, because guacamole is awesome. No, it's just like there's this thing that I really, really love, and for some reason I only get it when I'm not home. And I think at some point I just got really tired of not being able to have this thing that I think is awesome at like when I'm in my own city. so the thought entered my mind. And I think also it's, when our daughter was on her way, I was trying to sort out, like, what does life look like as somebody who's, had a child a little bit older in age. I won't tell you exactly, but like to keep a career going but also try and be home for this little human. So going through different ideas, and one of them was, okay, well, the restaurant industry is so reliable. Like, I should try something like that.
Can I interrupt really quick though, just to say that always traveling, like Gabe remembered tour stops by runs that he had and restaurants that he was at. But it wasn't just like, oh, I had this great restaurant. It would always be like, oh man, I went to this concept that was so cool. It would be so great in Nashville. So there were actually, before breakfast tacos, there were loads of things, kolaches being one.
Why isn't that
there's
more
a place in Houston? You're going to know since we're both Houstonians. Smoothie Island. He loves Smoothie Island that did the Greek food mixed with the smoothies. Like, there were always these places that you would experience that you would be like, man, that would do so great in Nashville. And there were times that you even like went down the road of like calling the place and talking to them. But I don't think any of us believed you that you were actually going to do it. So you're right. It was not going to follow through. It was when I was pregnant with Everly that it definitely, a shift happened and we started talking more seriously about it.
And it's funny, or not funny, how things work. Providence is whatever. It's a 3-syllable word. So that's fancy. But
I have to think about that one. No, I gotcha.
But there's something to it, to the point that I would nearly argue for days on end with somebody who doesn't think that there's something to whatever word you want to call it, but I would call it providence. In that I was out in Texas at a retreat center teaching a workshop and playing music, but they also had me teach a pie baking workshop.
Because that was your hobby at the time.
And it's like
can you say that one more time so everybody understands? Because it's a gloss over. Pie, like P-I-E, pie baking.
Fruit pie, desserts.
Yeah.
You just had a hobby of making pie.
So random.
Why not? It was more of it was a tribute, like a family tribute. My grandmother was just for fun, a good pie maker, and my mom can make the pies that her mom made, and it was like, whatever, they won't always be here, and so when they're not, somebody needs to carry this thing on. So I decided to go up and learn the deal, which in hindsight now is, gluten intolerant is what I am now. So that's it's sort of funny. I can't even eat those anymore. But, all that to say, so I spent enough time doing it that I had a friend ask me to come out, play music, but also teach a pie baking workshop. First time I'd been asked to do that in my life. And I went and did it, and it was a food focused retreat, and just met these other guys that I thought were awesome. And they're in the hospitality world in Austin. And something about that, to me, I think, it spoke a language that I don't hear much hanging out in the studio, not good and bad, just very different. That triggered something for me, I think, that got me going down the road of thinking like, ooh, what's something Nashville needs, kolaches.
But also too, I was at that retreat, and the whole retreat was focused on, it was a food retreat, but it was about community. And one thing that we love is entertaining people and inviting people in and inviting people into story. And so to hear a passion of ours, which is loving people well and community, being told in a way that was like, we all know gathering around the table invites that. But to hear two guys who were believers who we really respected and loved, and we loved their restaurant, hearing them talk about their view of a restaurant mixed with community was like, and hospitality, obviously, but it was just beautiful. And so I think I look back on that retreat, even though it was years before we ended up making the decision, but it really was a foundational part of what we kind of thought through.
Just seeing what that can do.
Yeah, it's interesting because it sounds like what was really resonating with you, of course, food. I mean, you love food and good food, but the hospitality piece was really kind of what was resonating with you, where you were thinking, I want to bring something to Nashville. Not that it has to be kolaches or smoothies or whatever, tacos. I want to get into the taco thing, but that really kind of the initial stirring of your heart was more around the table and creating a new table in Nashville.
Yeah. Because we don't know anything about restaurants. I mean, we're music world, but we know that we want to love and serve people. And so
and we also know, like, I don't mean we're connected in a braggy way. I mean, we know people connection, because that's the part that overlaps with hospitality industry and music world is you're dealing with people. Like, you're interacting, whether it's from a stage to an audience or after the show, out front or at a restaurant, you're literally serving somebody something and hoping that they connect with it. And so one of them you can eat and the other one you can listen to, but it's still,
that's going to be our new tagline.
But in my opinion, they both still, hopefully, if it's done the right way, it shoots a little jolt of love to the heart, either way. So
there you go. So why was it, how did you kind of land on tacos, and specifically breakfast tacos?
Yeah. I mean, I think, like Keely mentioned, there were a few ideas.
I threatened that we were moving back to Texas unless he figured out how to get homemade tortillas here. No joke. That was kind of part of the thing.
But it's, for me, it was truly trying to not just add, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but not just add to the more of the same in the landscape of food world. It's like, there are lots of options out there, but finding part of the landscape that was quite literally missing, and kolaches was one, and breakfast tacos was one. And I think that's why I was drawn to them. Like, how can we bring something different to the table, quite literally? And so I think enough things fell into place that it at the very least got me moving in that direction, which is, how do you make a tortilla? And starting to mess with it, which I've got pictures of some of my early tortillas, and it's no joke, really laughable to look at. For one, they're shaped sort of like a square or an octagon.
It is really hard to get the circle.
Yeah.
But slowly, but back to her thing, it's like, that was probably, you landed on that. And then once it was like, I think I'm going to do this. Went to Texas and all that. But I don't want to miss the fact that slowly over the course of that decision process, all these random tortilla machine appliance things would show up at our house. Our kitchen slowly became like one corner. Starts spreading wider.
What's happening in here?
Tortillas. So you got real serious real quick. But you did go to Texas for like a bit of a research trip. To be like, is this what I want to do? And took a friend with you who knows stuff. But,
And I mean, to me, the beauty part of the story, again, the 3-syllable word, the providence, is that destiny. That's 3 syllables too. Is that when I took this, my friend Bob, we went to Austin together to check it all out, and I was trying to show him, like, this is what I'm talking about. This is all, this is the deal, and we don't have it in Nashville. We reached out to Keely's sister and asked her, like, hey, where should we go eat while we're here? And like outside of tacos. And she said, you should go to this place, Contigo. And so we went, and as it turns out, that's the restaurant that the guys that I had met at the retreat had started in Austin. And so, and
you didn't know that.
No. Oh, well,
like you walk in the door.
I mean, even if I did know, I didn't know it when she told me. It was like, I got there and one of them, it's like they were there, and it was like, Andrew? So we started.
Like, pie guy?
Pie guy? Yeah.
So we start chatting, and I tell him what we're doing in town. And little did I know that we would end up being partners in this process, like, hey, so can I get your phone number? Sure. And then start calling saying, do you want to open a taco shop in Nashville? So
what year was that? Do you remember?
I want to feel like it was.
Well, I was pregnant in
2017. Yeah.
I would say it was late 2016 or early 2017.
Yeah.
Or late 2016. Yeah. Yeah. So it was like wild how fast. And I mean, they reconnected and Providence, Destiny, weaving of stories, all of that. It's like beautiful. Like I love that we met years before and randomly run back into them. And randomly they are like, yeah, we would never do that here in town, but we've always thought about a taco concept and it just worked. And if you ask them and it's because we had a foundation of all liking each other, you know, it's like, we know, you know, nothing about restaurants, but we know we like you. We believe that this could work. So that's kind of how it started. So yeah, we started that and then it was pretty fast after that. Like real estate took forever. But I mean, I remember I was super pregnant, and you officially decided to not take on any more music stuff.
Yep.
And I remember I must've been hormonal enough that I was like, okay, let's do this. And so, I mean, it was that shift of, I'm going to stop saying yes to things so I can start saying yes here. Because in order to move forward, I've got to give it my all. And so that's what we did in 2017. So.
Wow. And then when did you open the doors?
Yeah. It was, well, we opened in June of 20.
Yeah.
We were supposed to open in April of 20.
March.
And in March, something else opened.
Yeah. COVID. Yeah.
So,
I remember for my job, I was on the phone and tours were starting to cancel.
Yeah.
And both the guys were here, Andrew and Ben, I think. And we were kind of doing the final touches on getting the restaurant ready. And I remember Andrew got a phone call because they do a lot of catering for a big event down in Austin that also was canceling. We kind of just all looked at each other and we were like, I don't think we're opening the restaurant this weekend. So yeah, it was crazy. They flew home. We all just kind of thought, oh, okay, we'll be back in about a couple weeks. Let this die down and we'll figure it out. But it was, so the week the pandemic really hit was the week we were supposed to open and didn't. And then remained closed until June. Actually, we're about to celebrate our second birthday. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So June 4th.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And then open only with
only
several doors. Yeah. And it was just to go only.
It was a big taco truck.
Yeah. Really big taco truck.
Yeah.
Not on wheels, but it's there.
Yeah.
Well, so just to like briefly get into the business side of things on that, I mean, I'm sure that was a huge bummer, but also you've got to change your model overnight. And now I'm sure what you expected, your sales would be plummeted quite a bit. I mean, I don't know, maybe people showed up, but what is that like? I mean, that's like, you're just, as an entrepreneur, you're just thrown into it. And that is really being thrown into it.
Yeah.
Because it's not like, we didn't see COVID happen and then say, yeah, we don't care. We're going to open a restaurant. Like we planned to already do something that felt crazy to us, which was open a restaurant. And then somebody who, played to a metronome a lot in my life, my timing was really bad on opening a restaurant. So
you really couldn't have known.
You couldn't have known, no. But it was really like stressful and scary. Like the guys that are partners that we like lean on to know about restaurants, they go back to Austin. They've got their own craziness they're dealing with. At that time, they had 3 restaurants running. And so they're helping us from afar as best they can. We're literally figuring out how to run a restaurant to go only during COVID starting in June. And thankfully they got us with some staff. We kept some staff on that we had in March until we opened in June, just because they had been trained and we needed that. But it was really stressful. I mean, obviously since my world and work had changed a bit, I took off even more and I was up there. I mean, little Ev was handing bags through the door. It was,
I mean, our friends were up there.
Our friends. Yeah. Like
working for tacos basically.
Yeah.
And another thing that I think is funny, not funny, but still funny, is that it was early on enough that it's like masks. What are those? Or where do you get them? So it's like all the pictures of us then, we're all wearing like handkerchiefs tied around our faces.
Yeah, the bandanas. Before we realized that bandanas weren't COVID appropriate.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
You're like, maybe this doesn't really do anything.
Yeah. That was before everything started.
They're cozier and cool.
Yeah. But yeah, so it was wild for sure.
It is wild. And in Nashville, I think something like 50% of restaurants closed and never reopened.
Yeah.
So it's amazing that you guys opened during that and then,
survived
on 2 years.
And again, I think it goes back to like, God's hand in that, like the provision of that. And also back to what we originally, our heart behind it was community and loving people. And I remember the day we had friends that, you're all masked up, you're out there on that sidewalk. We had gotten a way to get our tables out there, and it was like the time to see each other. And truly the neighborhood supported us, like the community, our friends, and our neighborhood. It was kind of this like little safe place, haven of like seeing each other, and you weren't hugging, but you were like there, like smiling behind mask. And we might have different opinions on this, but I really attribute that heartbeat behind how we wanted to serve and love people, also being reciprocated by people serving and loving us during that time. Friends jumping in when it was crazy. I remember one day seeing a friend back on Tortillas with Gabe, and I was like, do you even know what you're doing? He's like, no, he's just teaching me right now. And I just remember being like, oh my word, like it was just the best. And it brought people together in a different way. So
I learned how to make the tortillas circular
by then.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that's it is unexplainable in a lot of ways during that time, and heartache for those that didn't survive. And we'll never know exactly why. I think we're grateful it was a portable food. It made it easy for people to take it and go. But also, we were really well supported by friends and community. So.
And it's kind of like what you guys set out to create, going back to the hospitality, the community, the table. In one sense, it's like you guys set out to create that and to bring that to Nashville. But then what happened in the midst of all of this really difficult situation, like Nashville gave it back to you.
Yeah. Yep. Totally.
Yep.
Yeah.
So was there ever a point in the last couple of years, I mean, obviously you opened at the absolute worst time, and it's kind of been up since then, but was there ever a point where you just thought, you know what, it's just not working. Maybe LadyBird isn't going to happen, or maybe we need to change what we're doing.
You want me to take this one?
Well, I mean, you can take it, but I'll say that I think, I can only speak to almost 2 years, but for me personally, that fear never stops.
Yeah.
Like even when you're doing well, it's, I think there's a continual reminder that, this is a volatile time and already a volatile industry. So it's kind of like, are people hungry for tacos today? They were yesterday. Are they today? So that's kind of how it rolls with me, is just like, I hope people still want it today. And the good news is the answer seems to be yes every time. But for me, it hasn't gone away yet. Wanting to, or having the drive to still be like, hey, trust this. It's really good. You should come. So
I think for me, and this dives into kind of more of our personal story, but I mean, it was exhausting, like the whole time period of running it right during COVID, in the thick of it, and really stressful. And really exciting, like all the emotions that go into it. But it was in September of 2020, Gabe just started not feeling really well. And I remember we had done a kind of collaboration pop-up dinner with a couple chefs. And it was that night, and we've been looking forward to it, that he missed most of it because he was out back just really not feeling well. So we're trying to get to the bottom of what's going on. And kind of worst nightmare. He woke up and was really sick the next night. We ended up in the ER, of course, during COVID. Everybody thought that's what was happening. We knew it wasn't COVID, and ended up in the ER and staying there for almost the whole month. And he was diagnosed with meningoencephalitis, which is really hard to say, harder to spell. And it's a brain infection. And so all of a sudden, we've got all this craziness, and then life has thrown us the worst curveball. And scared in multiple ways. Obviously he's here now. We're grateful, but we've had a major life change. Mm-hmm. And so I think for me, specifically answering that question, LadyBird was the last on my list. And I think both of us wrestled with, was LadyBird the culprit that caused the sickness, which through lots of therapy, mm-hmm. We are learning that that is not the case. And I think it would have been really easy to say, forget this, like forget LadyBird, like we got to heal, we got to get better, and we don't have capacity. And
when she says forget LadyBird, it's like a big part of my illness is memory loss, and so from brain damage. So and it's going to sound like I'm being funny again. I'm not. but I did forget LadyBird.
Right.
Literally.
Right.
Like, say what?
Right.
We opened a taco shop?
Yeah.
Like, no way. That's crazy. So
You're like, I play the hammer dulcimer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But even so, like his memory at that point, and it would be a whole episode to talk about what he's gone through, but it's like, it was all over the place. So even at that point, you were thinking you were from tours long time ago, and he had no concept of COVID, didn't know it existed. I remember in the hospital room, turning on the TV, and the Atlanta Falcons game was on, and he turned to me and he said, God, the Falcons must suck this year. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, the stadium's empty. And all of a sudden it hit me. Wait,
wow.
We're in a pandemic. What? And I mean, I would have to retell him the story of the pandemic. And another, the story and God's story in the midst of the suffering and the chaos is our doctors. One doctor lives in the neighborhood and would come to LadyBird a lot, he and his wife. And we had kind of gotten to know them. And anyway, I remember the first morning we were there waiting on doctor rounds, in walks this doctor. And I immediately burst into tears. And I'm like, what are you doing here? And I had no clue he was even a doctor. And he was like, I'm an infectious disease doctor. And I saw your case come in and I thought, no way, this is Gabe Scott. And he just sat there and he said, this is not good, but we're going to make it. And he sat there and he prayed with me, and he was our doctor throughout. And then the other doctor was a huge music fan and had seen Gabe and a guy he played for back in the day, Bebo Norman, in concert. And so I just thought, like, what are the chances of, like, here Gabe is trying to rebuild the pieces of life and story and memories. And you've got one doctor who checks on him that knows about LadyBird, and one doctor that checks on him that knows about music. Like, that is undeniable, the beauty in that story. And what really helped in a time of feeling so lost, going, I do not understand this. We're angry about it, but I can't deny that, like, his goodness is right there in that story. And so I think back to LadyBird, like, we're relearning it or trying to. We get out of so I'll go back to that. We get out of the hospital.
How long were you in the hospital?
3.5 weeks. And then went back for another 2 weeks for some other testing. And I mean, current day right now, like, it's still really hard. Like, memories don't come easy. Long-term wins are lost. Relearning is hard. The restaurant somehow, I think, because it's repetitive, it's been more obtainable to relearn. The hope and prayers, short-term memories can last a little bit longer than they do right now. And build new ones. But yeah, LadyBird during that time, and he struggled with it even more than me, for sure, of just hating it. Is that fair to say?
Well, blaming it.
And so, yeah, I think at that point it was like, this is not worth all of this. And we live in the neighborhood right around the corner. So it was like, we took a step back, and we can talk about how we survived during that, but we took a step back and I would step in and just check on our staff and pick up the food for him to try and, like, reacquaint. But we were really gone for 5 months, 6 months. But here we are driving by it. And it was just like,
it's there all the time.
Yeah. And we were wrestling with what to do. And I'm kind of over here going, should we shut it down? Like, what are we doing? Is this right? And you're not liking it at all. But I'm like, well, maybe we need to keep it going. And Elizabeth, I can tell you right now, like, I am so glad we didn't shut it down. Like, it has been, like, the biggest gift, because, like, music world got turned upside down. Who knows what your career would have looked like there.
Right.
But the fact that it's in our neighborhood, that same community were the ones that were showing up at our door, bringing us meals. Like, and we have a place that's like a little, like, our own little haven now, that we go and we see friends and people. And with all that he had, he never forgot names or faces. And so what a crazy industry to be in when you've got people walking through that door all the time, and he sees people and friends. And he might not be able to tell you how he knows you, but he knows you.
Yeah.
And I think it's turned into being a gift, even in the midst of feeling like it wasn't. I just talked a long time. I'm done. Bye. Bye. But yeah, so for me, that was my moment of wanting to give up. And I'm so glad we didn't, because it's turned into something so much more. So, yeah.
Man, there's so much there.
I know.
Thank you for sharing your story. I mean, yeah, it's just incredible. And I know, it's like, Lord, I don't understand your ways, but you know the way for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you don't know why
Yeah.
you're in, but you trust that he loves you and that he's got you.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I can't believe it's been 2 years.
No, it's crazy.
It's a blur, I'm sure, for you guys.
Yeah.
How has it, okay, just going back to the entrepreneur side of things, but like how you're as a married couple, you live your lives together and you share your lives, your shared experiences together, living together and walking through life together. How do you guys find balance in that? Both personally as an entrepreneur, it's so hard. And as a restaurant owner, it never turns off. You're in it 24/7. How do you find that space personally? But then really with your relationship, it's like you guys have, Keely, you have your own career, you've got your daughter, you've got your life, you've got this illness that you're still navigating and walking through all of that, and then owning this business that can be all consuming. And then you guys have to have time for each other. How do you guys navigate all of that and find balance for your marriage?
Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Do you want to go first?
Sometimes.
That is true.
Sometimes we find balance.
Yeah.
And quite like most people, quite often, I'm sure, 6 months or a year from now, we'll look back and be like, whoa, things were really out of balance. But yeah, it's a constant dance routine trying to, I think, keep things the way that ultimately we both, where we put our priorities. It's easy to say with our mouths. Sometimes it's harder to prove with your actions and with your schedule. But just trying to rebalance and navigate that. And then, with the illness thrown in, it's, at least for me, I'll just speak for me, it makes it extra complicated because I feel I'm just now getting semi-confidence back into me where I believe in me. So yeah, that's a I don't know if it's a high wire to walk, but it's definitely a little bit of a maze sometimes to walk through. I think even for us, where it's, I want not more control, but I want to have my own opinion again now, where I didn't have it for a while, like literally didn't have it. To where it's like, even when I'm not confident with my decision or what I'm going to do with business stuff, I have to, marriage-wise or relationship, just be like, you have to, you have to let me go do this and screw it up or not screw it up or whatever it might be. Because
I think that's the thing, sickness or not, that I think that's a lesson.
Yeah, either way.
We didn't practice well, and we were, I was trying to think of what that roller coaster called. It's like we fast track. Like we had to learn things really quickly the hard way. And I think my personality would be one that wanted to be in the weeds of everything. Mm-hmm. And in order for him to heal and sickness aside, like it's his deal. Like we're in it together, but like I've got my thing, whatever. So it's like learning our lanes, like knowing that. I remember early on, he would be doing merch sometimes at a bigger tour. He had multiple jobs, and I would try and like come and help, and I'd like stack the CDs a certain way. We'd get the biggest arguments, and it was like we each had our way of thinking. So we kind of have like, we know that about ourselves, that like we each have our lane. And even still, like I am way hands off in the restaurant, and he brings me in for opinions or different things. But I think that's been one of the beautiful things. I don't know if we would have learned as quickly as we needed to learn. Yeah. And how we do it. And I think for me, the past 2 years, but specifically looking at from September 2020 on, it's been learning that whole idea of like holding the both and, it's like holding extreme joy with extreme sadness. And I even look at that when it came to like managing our life and all of that. Like there was the sacrifice of, it's so good that he's wanting to be up there and doing it, even though, oh my word, can we have a Saturday at home? Like it was just learning that. But to specifically answer your question, regardless of our personal story, like there's a great book. I can't remember the name of it right now, but it's about finding your who. You know what book I'm talking about? It's awesome. I'll get it and you can add it to your show notes. Okay. I can't think of it. But it's about finding the who. And I apply it to my own job. And I think we've done that at LadyBird too. It's what are we not the best at that we need to find that who? Who's that person that can step in? And so we have a new partner at LadyBird, and he's the who, like he has stepped in and he really helps us in the areas that have given us the margin we need to manage all of the spinning plates. So find your who. That's not the name of the book, but I'll find it for you.
Is it the book Who Not How?
Yes, thank you. Who Not How. Yes.
Show
Yes.
up.
Did you just Google it on the side? How'd you just do that?
No, I have just been reading that book. Yes, it's not about how you do it. Sometimes it's about who, because you cannot do it all.
You can't do it all. And I think that I remember the day that Gabe, it was probably the second day in the hospital, and my Ring camera was like, da-ding, 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 da-ding. And I just watched all my friends coming in my house, taking out laundry, bringing in cleaning supplies. And it was that sense of like, I can be a control person. Like, oh my gosh, they're in my house. I'm not there. Like in our house, the whole idea of skeletons in your closet, that was our house. Like everything on the outside looked like we were living the dream, opening the restaurant. But I mean, you opened up my closet and it was, my friends can tell you, there were clothes everywhere. It was a mess. So I kind of like, that is such a good symbolism for our lives right now. But they were my who. They showed up and they were the ones that started showing me that like, it's not how I do it or how I think I can do it. It's who I put in place to do that. And that was a hard decision for us early on to bring in another who. Oh, it was getting like saying the word who so much, but it was awesome. Yeah. And so I think we use it in LadyBird all the time. When it comes to marketing, branding, all that, we have found incredible people that can execute what we want to be done, that are skilled at it and amazing at it. We don't try to do it all. And that's just for us. And that's because we don't know it all. We didn't know it. And even for me at Compassion, like I have an incredible team around me and they're filled with a whole bunch of people that know how to do incredible things. And it's finding that who. So
finding your team.
Yeah. Yep.
What has your team look like on the personal side the last couple of years, navigating all of it, Keely? I mean, I like anybody
Compassion or LadyBird?
No, your team, like for your life, outside of work, I just feel like anybody that knows Keely, it's like, you're just floating around with this huge smile all the time. And the last 2 years have been so challenging, just how have you, and I know you've touched on this in multiple ways through this conversation, but just how have you navigated, something that could easily make you crumble.
Yep.
And you guys have both just persevered. I think that's a testament to you and also, the people that you have around you.
Totally. I mean, I would say the people around us for sure. I mean, I remember the day in the hospital that getting the like, hey, we're setting up a meal train. I was like, great. And a dear friend had done that. And we had meals all the way through like February, like September to February. And in a time where, especially when you go through trauma like that and sickness, you think, where is God in this? And God showed up in loving us in ways through people, and you can't, and it was just so beautiful. So I would say
they're not invisible.
They're not invisible. It's
not
like this tangible love.
It's like, oh, there's God. It looks like my buddy.
Right. Yeah. Like you can't deny God's love for you when you've got people showing up at your door just wanting to help. And so I think that would be the first thing that kept us alive, were our like the friend group and the community. And I would say in the, once we got home and the I don't want to say the dust settled, but we kind of were regrouping. My parents ended up actually getting a place here and moving here. So having them has been, you want to get me crying. That's what I talk about. Has been incredible. So that would be family support, for sure there. And then, and to be honest, like we have just the best counselor, and we see her every other week. We see her together, sometimes separate. And so this is just a public service announcement for like, no matter where you're at in your life, counseling is an amazing thing. And I really think that she has helped us see parts of ourselves that we didn't know existed and navigate them. And I referenced it earlier, but for me personally, and Gabe's got different things that have helped you. Mm-hmm. But for me, it has really been that both and. Like I have been both so angry and both so grateful. And I never knew those two could coexist at the same time. And that lesson that I've learned in my personal life because of the stresses that we've gone through, LadyBird, sickness, pandemic, all of those has really impacted how I look at how I do life, not just my job, but life, is holding those two really closely, that both and.
Yeah. Is it, I get to ask you a question now.
Ooh, that wasn't in the script. That's not.
Is it
fair.
okay? Is it okay if I don't preach, but if I just give a really short, like a 1-minute sermon? I guess it is preaching, really quick. Which
Pastor Gabe.
that I think applies whether you end up with brain trauma or not, or you open a restaurant or not. And I think that we've all heard it. Most of us, at least in the U.S., have heard it many, 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 many times through our lives. And it's a cute little saying. And that's where it lives, is in the cute little saying. And for quite a while, I was living the reality I'm about to tell you. That's a cute little saying, which is one day at a time. Take it one day at a time. And that's how we should all live. And I can say it with confidence now. And I've heard people tell me that my whole life. That's, hey, be in the moment, one day at a time. But if you're any ears that are, would be hearing me say this right now, I speak from authority for one of the first times in my life. Complete confidence, because I have lived literally a position where I had to take it one moment at a time because I would forget 2 minutes later what just happened. That at the very least, one day at a time, at least that's already the saying. So let's just go with 24 hours. We're not in control. Doesn't matter what you believe, who you are, where you are, what you do. You're not in control of how long you're going to be on this planet. You're not. And so make it count, whatever you're doing. If you're doing something that you're miserable in the moment, make the best of it, because it might be the last one. And if you're doing something you love, make the most of it. Love the people around you the best that you can, because it might be yours or their last moment. So the one day at a time thing, as corny as that phrase is, I've seen the reality of it, and it is 100% true. And that's why it's corny, because it's true. So,
but it's also so inspiring. I mean, I get so emotional on how I'm inspired daily by what he's saying on how he lives, because it helps you. He'll say it to me with, like, if I'm stressed about something with work, it really helps minimize that. It's like one day at a time, and you want to like hit the person for saying that. Like, what? No, I need to think about the future, But it's like when you are forced to live one day at a time, it completely changes your perspective on how the lens you look at life through. And like, we're not at the point where we would say encephalitis is a gift at all. Probably never will. But the lessons that we've learned from it are like the silver lining gift in the midst of absolute pain. And this is one of them. And I fail miserably at it daily. And he, because he lives in it, is for not just for me, but for his friends. It's the thing. It's like beautiful. So, and for people at LadyBird, I mean, most customers know our story, and it's because he'll say kind of that thing, and he'll be in the moment with every person that walks through that door. Like, it's incredible. So he's become the extrovert.
But here's the deal. Like you just smiled, right? And we just smiled, making a little joke, telling a little story. And that's not something that's any different. I would have done the same before. We all would have. But no joke, I spend so much more of my day, even though there are lots of bad parts to it, I spend more of my day smiling than I ever have, because I'm truly, trying to find value in humor and love and happiness, even in the things that are ugly, digging for it instead of like, come to me, happiness. It's like, where are you?
Yeah.
Happiness. And it's the right. Yeah. I'm not going the wrong way on a one-way street. I think I'm going the right way. And we are, when we live that way.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's all you have is right now.
Exactly.
And we so foolishly I am such a controller and such a planner, and, my OCD kicks in, and you find a sense of comfort and control in that. And, God so kindly reminds us sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't feel so kindly, of like, no, I am God. You are not God. I am in control, and I know what's best for you. And I am guiding your steps and creating your path. And it will be so much better than anything you could ever imagine, even though you will go through many, many trials.
Yep.
And I think like you guys are just such a testament of who you are personally and your faith and just the wisdom that you both have and that you're sharing that. That doesn't come easy, but wisdom isn't supposed to,
Yeah.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thanks for asking us to. We feel
Yes.
it's part of our story. So it's the story we've been handed. And that's actually been one of the things is if we can help one other person by sharing our story, then we're making good at something that's been hard. So, yeah, it's kind of how we have approached this.
Yes. Do you have any other advice just for, I always ask this question, for a young entrepreneur, meaning someone who's just early on in their journey, starting out with an idea or about to launch a business? Do you have any advice, Gabe, like for the young entrepreneur? And then Keely, do you have any advice for someone who's a partner of an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I mean, I think my advice, because there's lots of advice out there, as it turns out, right? And when it comes to small business or just business in general, like working for yourself. But I think my advice would be pretty simple in that it's truly try to find something. If you're looking for more than just money, try to find something that you think is unique or clever or smart or helpful, whatever those things are, but also something that is deep down inside of you. Because if you jump in, it's deep, and you might get tired of swimming if you don't pick something that you truly care about, that you truly love. So making sure, if you want more rewards than one, to chase down something that you feel genuine passion for, something that you want to. It's like, I want to share this with other people, whatever it might be. And if you can check those boxes, then I absolutely, even though it may very well fail, it's still worth chasing down, because I believe in the process, even of a failure, you're going to find the next step to chase down the next thing that you think is that's got you riled up in a good way. So
that's good. I think as the wife of one, I mean, yeah, like I think back, like a restaurant's on our first go at entrepreneurialism. Marrying a musician would be top of it at that. And I mean, the story he told is my example so often that, like, I remember early in our marriage, he got called to play banjo, and he told me for the session. And then I was like, "Do you even have a banjo?" He's like, "No, I got to go to the store right now." He went and got it, and he played it, and he stayed up all night, and he learned the banjo, and now he gets called to play banjo sessions. It's like so random, but it takes that drive. And so I knew that was in him. So when he came to me and said, "Hey, I think I want to stop saying yes to music and open a restaurant." That is like a life change, huge decision for both of us. And so I think my advice would be like, you got to dive in with them, and knowing that if it failed, you're right there if it fails. And if it wins, you're right there if it wins. And in the middle of it, you're right there cheering on, and you're picking up pieces and doing jobs and tasks that you never thought you could do, and because I love him and I love the idea, and I'm so grateful for it. There's so many times where I could have wrongly so put the stop to it, even in the beginning, and been like, this is too scary. This is too much for me. And he probably would have said, no, let's stop. But the adventure that we've been on and the gift that we're giving our daughter and seeing it and the excitement of trying something has been so rewarding, even at the fails and all of that. And there have been lots of them and will continue to be. But it's just, it's that next step that is exciting. And I'm glad that we're doing it together. I'm glad early on I learned the lesson the hard way when there was some opposition of going, okay, if we're doing this, we are doing this. And that would probably be my biggest thing is LadyBird is a lot Gabe, but it is also a lot us. And when I say us, it's Everly, it's us, it's all of us. So
yeah, like Keely and I have been all around the world for our jobs and what have you, doing our thing. And our 5-year-old thinks we're taco people. So it's like, because that's all she, that's kind of what she knows.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Would you guys say it seems like you have a very set vision, that you are in alignment with your vision for your family and for your life together as a married couple together? Does that make sense to you? Would you say that's the case?
Yeah, I think we're aligned in that, but I think we're also always willing to tweak it. So I mean, it's like, it's like I think we have our like what do you want to call it? Like our guidelines, like the things that we don't stray from this, but we're aligned. And when we're not aligned, that's the hard part of figuring it out, and making sure. I don't know if that probably didn't answer it very well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer is yes. I mean, I think that we're
humans and we don't align.
Yeah, things always don't line up, but I think we're aligned. And, I mean, and if we weren't before, we are now, because it's like, again, hey, let's both put money in our lives into something that we know very little about, and it's a super easy industry. Joke. That kind of has put us in a position where it had, that's kind of how it has to be. Yeah. Let's be real. What's up? Like, are we on the same page? Yeah. Okay. Move forward. Yeah. And if you're not, I mean, honestly, anybody in any situation, whether it's business or not, it's kind of like in a marriage, honestly, even just in a friendship, that's how a great relationship grows, is by digging into what the other person, where they're at as well, and saying, okay, I see that. Let's go. Yeah. Or, ooh, we need to talk about this.
And recognizing each other's strengths. And I think that that's something that early on we started realizing. It's like, it's that idea I said before, it's like staying in our lane, but the better way to look at it is recognizing where each of us are stronger and honoring that and supporting and cheerleading that person on in that strength. And I think even if you take it outside of our family and our marriage, I think with our partners at LadyBird, we are all very different people and have very different strengths that we bring to the table. And so when one of us has an opinion about something that everybody knows is like, you know what, I kind of trust their gut there. It's like, it's an easy alignment because we've empowered that person to be the best that they can be. So, yeah.
Yeah. Trust is the right word. When you ask the question, we could like rewind like 4.5 minutes to when you actually asked the question.
Yeah. Ask the question again.
And we could just say trust.
Let's have her ask it again. Can you ask that question again?
I don't even know. I don't know.
Are you aligned in your family and how you do life together?
Trust.
Yes. Yeah. You have a vision.
Yes. Yeah. We just spent 4 minutes. Yeah. We just spent 4 minutes defining the word trust. Yeah.
Redefining. Yeah.
Redefining.
It's a 3-letter word.
Yeah. That's good.
You've heard us mention kolaches a few times during today's episode. If you're curious what we're talking about, check out this week's Shout Out of the Week, Kolacho. Kolacho was founded by Will Hobbs, a psychology major from 2012. It's a local, family-owned and operated pop-up serving the Nashville community some good old Texas breakfast. Kolaches are a pastry with its origins in Czechoslovakia and modern roots in Texas. It's a sweet yeast dough filled with savory ingredients, and the Texas-style kolaches are the absolute best. To find yourself one in Nashville, check out kolacho.com. Big congrats to Will Hobbs for the business he started 2 years ago and all the growth he's seen since then. That's kolacho.com. Okay, before I let you guys go, can we do some rapid fire questions?
Okay.
And, this is the first time we've had 2 people on, so you can both answer, or one of you take it if you like it. I don't know.
Let's both answer.
Rapid answer.
Yeah. Rapid answer. What's the best taco on your menu?
Number 1. You didn't answer.
Well, it's because you did.
What's the number?
Oh, okay.
What's the number 1? Yeah, it's bacon, egg, and cheese. It's just classic.
Yeah. Classic. Okay.
Yep.
Austin or Nashville?
Nashville.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mom, Dad, Kelsey, Clint.
No, sorry, family. You're in Nashville. Best barbecue in Nashville?
Ooh. We really like Shotgun Willie's because he's Texas style over on the east side. We don't get to go to him as often, but man, his barbecue's so good. Shotgun Willie's, if you haven't gone, it's amazing. But what we find ourselves eating the most is can't go wrong with Martin's.
Martin's.
Yeah. Was that,
Okay.
sorry, did I answer for you?
No, that's what I would have said.
Okay.
Okay, music question. What was the last song that you listened to?
Oh gosh.
Take out all of Ev's music.
Yeah.
Which Disney soundtrack did you listen to?
That's all I will say I'm very grateful for Sing 2 because yesterday Ev started singing U2 in the back of the car and I was like, yes, finally, something different.
Raising her in there.
Oh, Elizabeth, for two music people, that was a hard question because it's either stuff I'm working on or whatever else.
Well, I mean, this is dorky, but I've spent the last, I don't know, like every spare moment that I have, music spare moment I have. You like my rapid answer?
She said it's rapid fire. Just say none.
Yeah.
None.
I've just been re-listening to music I've been a part of making just to try and refamiliarize myself. So
because he's having to relearn music stuff just where he's at.
Yeah.
Okay, this isn't a rapid fire question, but I just thought I'm really bad at this part. How much is music still a part of your life, Gabe? Like, have you been able to get back into playing music? I know you had to put it on pause in some ways when you were launching the restaurant, but are you back into playing some?
I still love it. It's still, I think, inside of me, part of who I am. I think I was scared of it for a while because I was afraid to pick something up and be like, oh, I don't remember how to play music. But a tour that I've been a part of for years and years with a guy named Andrew Peterson, we've done a Christmas tour for 22 years, and I managed to be a part of it every year, including
the year you got sick.
Since I got sick, which was, literally a few months after I was ill. And then I did the tour again this last Christmas. So,
which if you had asked me if he would tour again, I would have said, there's no way. Like, it would have been, and it was hard, just emotionally and mentally and stuff. But yeah, you toured it. So
yeah,
but it goes in spurts probably. I want to see him playing more. This is a good question because I would like to see him play more.
I played on just a couple of sessions in the last, year and a half. And yeah, it's something I definitely still love it so much. It's the language I speak best. Mm-hmm. It's just been thrown a curveball and I'm stuttering a little bit now.
But you never forgot how to play. That was me tying it to the
love language. Yeah.
Which is actually incredible. Like if you hold a guitar, you might play songs from 15 years ago, but you never forgot how to play. And I think that is like,
my body remembers.
The brain is amazing.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's why we are so hopeful for future stuff. And it's hard, but it's like, there's actually not a lot of studies on the brain to know the improvements that can happen, especially at his age. And we see that when certain things.
She's calling me young, not old, right there.
I did. Actually, you should be grateful for that.
Yeah.
What did you guys want to be when you were a kid? What did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a musician or a Broadway star.
Yeah, I wanted to be a musician.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. That's all I got.
Yeah.
Those are my rapid fire, not so rapid fire questions.
Only not so rapid fire because of us.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, I'm always slow at that part. Well, thank you guys so much for being here today. It's just been a gift to talk to you and to learn more about your story. And I know it's going to encourage a lot of other people. So thank you so much for sharing. And I always say this, but I'm truly, on behalf of Belmont, like Keely, we love you. We are so proud of everything you've done. I think Belmont loves that you are a part of this community. So we can't wait to see where you guys go in the next several years.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Love it. Thanks, Elizabeth. Go Bruins.
All right. Talk with you soon. Thanks for listening. What If is produced by Old Soul. For links and show notes, please visit belmontetp.com/whatif. Until next time, keep asking what if.